Konnichiwa, Japan. How are you? Doug Aldrich here from the Dead Daisies, and this issue of Young Guitar is going to be especially about picking techniques and the kind of pick you use. Lots of different kinds of picks, lots of different ways to hold the pick, and so we're going to discuss how I do it, and hopefully that'll be something that'll be helpful to you in your future. Arigato. It's a Dunlop Tortex pick that I like the Tortex picks because they last a long time. A lot of times with the traditional celluloid picks or something, or plastic picks, they would wear out a little bit as you play, and it would kind of get scratchy. So I found these Tortex picks back in the 80s by Dunlop, and I just love them. And they do custom print work, so you can get your band logo on there. And they're really great picks. These are .88. They're heavy. So there's so many thousands and different kinds of picks. You can experiment with ones that you like. Some people who are into you know, like old school blues playing and stuff, they might use a lighter pick. Some guys that are into total shred, they might use a really heavy pick, like a metal pick, or even a thick wood pick, or even a rock pick. And then over the years, you know, people like Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, you guys probably know this, but he was using a peso or something for his pick. And then some people don't use a pick at all, they use their nails and their fingers. But generally speaking, for rock guitar, this is your typical shape pick. It's like the very traditional one. And how I hold the pick is comfortable for me. It's how I've held it all my life, and it's basically sticking straight out of my the front of my first finger, and then it's maybe a little bit down and out of the side of my thumb. And that's about where I hold it. I hold it on the thickest part right there. And so what it looks like on the guitar, I feel it right here in this crease of my finger. I feel it. I'm so comfortable with this size pick and this shape pick. That's what I like. And this is how I hold it. And it's basically coming right out of the side of my fingernail. Can you see that? It's coming right out of the side of my fingernail, and it allows me to use the pick alone, and also I can use the part of my finger underneath it, and I can use this part of my thumb for harmonics, which we'll talk about. But this is, and basically, some people play with the pick flat like this on the strings. Some people play with it with like more of it like this, like it's same kind of angle, but it's angled backwards. I have it so I'm angled forwards. I'm angling forwards like this, so I'm hitting. When I go over the string, it rolls over the edge. If I need it to roll more, I might turn it more like this for speed picking. If I want to get more attack, I might turn it this way. And you can hear I get more attack that way versus this way. It's softer. So that's basically how I hold the pick. And then, you know, there's a lot of things as far as your hand position. Some people will use their pinky as a kind of pivot point. Other people will use their palm here as a pivot point. Some people don't do anything at all. And I think there's good points to all of that. So we'll get into that next. Chord strumming. So with that, I'm basically using a combination of downstrokes and upstrokes, and muting and letting it ring open. Like the first chord, I'm hitting it down, and then I do a little palm mute on the G string, on the G note. Well, actually, I don't. I'm playing it open pretty much. But you have to mute in between. Now watch, you can do it all downstrokes. And you can do that. But the way I play this riff, that's my dog Lucy. The way I play this riff is more comfortable and feels more loose if I use alternate rhythm. Okay, palm muted riffs in a really hard rock style. This is super important for rock guitar. It's been in so many songs, especially hard rock songs, where you basically so maybe you might have a syncopation like that where you're playing an A chord and then you're pedaling off of the A string. When you want it to tighten up, that's when you do your palm muting. And palm muting is you pick all the way through, and then you lay your hand on the very back by the bridge. You see when you move it, it changes. So it's even tighter up here. More open back here. One of the most famous palm muted riffs maybe is anyway, that's a kind of a thing. There's in the 80s there was all kinds of stuff, all the way till let's say this riff. You're muting again, you're palm muting the A string. Now, if you want to just palm mute the whole chord, that's cool too. Midnight Moses, the Dead Daisies does, in the verse, it goes. And then it opens up later, but it's all muted, right, like that. Let's see, there's a song I wrote with Whitesnake called Good to Be Bad. It's total. To mute every time you hit, so you get the punch. Otherwise, it would be. If you don't mute it, it's going to be this. And that's not what you want. You want it to be tight. So there you go. Palm muting and opening it up within a chord, and it's really important. Chord arpeggios, it's all the way back from before we were born, you know, that's an arpeggio. It's just a very sweep, fast chord arpeggio. And then all the way up until the 80s, you got an arpeggio, one of the most famous heavy rock riffs. Lucy likes Van Halen. So that's and you know, for little riffs like. You can do up and down, different kinds of things, but it's basically single notes of the chord, and you're breaking it up. Okay, this is alternate picking and on single strings and multiple strings and scales. I'm going to kind of condense all this stuff into one thing, and it comes down to how you hold the pick that's comfortable. Sometimes people will pick with their wrist like this. Sometimes people pick with their fingers like that. What I do is I pick like I'm turning my arm, and it's basically the same feeling as grabbing a doorknob and twisting it. That's the same feeling. If I did it like this, I know I could feel that my elbow would make it too tight. I couldn't be as loose and fluid. If I did it like this, I would be maybe not as accurate, because it really takes, that's a really difficult thing. But for me, opening the door back and forth really fast is the way that I can go from slow to fast. And I just would suggest starting on, say, one note, like. Now you see the angle of my pick? I'm angling the pick down a little bit and back a little bit. It's not like this, it's not like this. So I'm angling it back and down. And what you could do is you could have a metronome going 1, 2, 3, 4. And basically, that's a good thing to practice all over the neck. If you know your scales, you could do 4 picks per note on a pentatonic scale. So like. And you notice I'm alternate picking. I'm alternating all the time. Now not always are you going to alternate. Sometimes you're going to go down or up twice, but for the purpose of practicing alternate picking, you want to always stick to that. So it's good. Don't get confused trying to, do something like that right now. The best thing to do is to pick some simple exercises to where you can really. Slower. With a metronome is good, because then you keep your pace up. And then there's little things like I would make exercises out of open strings and alternate picking. So down, up, starting with the down. And then you can start moving your left hand up and down the neck a little bit. One of my favorite things for practicing picking is Gary Moore had this. And it's basically just. So every time you pick up, it's open. Every time you pick down, it's the note. Now check this out. Now I'm going to add in muting to that, because when you want to get tighter, you're going to mute your strings a little bit. So it starts off open. But then listen to it muted. And then you can open it up later, but the difference is major, it's a big difference going from. Is that going to bother them? Changing strings, I mean, it's as simple as when you're practicing your scales, maybe, on your pentatonic scale or a diatonic scale, like an E minor E minor diatonic. Try picking the notes twice like that, starting with a downstroke. Picking 2 notes per string, and it's a good way to practice your scales. So later you could take that same E natural minor scale and play 3 notes per scale and hit 3 notes twice and then move to the next string. It's like this. Okay, another exercise would be to stay in the box of E minor and practice alternate picking just within 2 strings. That's with downstrokes. Here's upstrokes. And the more comfortable you get at it, you just slowly speed it up. Little by little, little by little. One more exercise that I really love is speed picking, going into a bend or something, for example, like. That's a fun one. And last thing I want to show you is picking, say, a pentatonic box, and you're bending a note and picking. It's something that Randy Rhoads and Zach Wilde started doing, like. So it's really fun, you know, you can move it around, you can. That's the simple one. Picking those little boxes, you could start. Here's one that I started doing. I really loved just using an open the G string and then open. So slowly it's. Down picking riff in a fast and slow motion. This comes into play with the Dead Daisies and our guitar player David Lowy. He's from Australia and he loves the downstroke. It's almost a punk rock technique where they. that's open, and then you can hear me mute it after that. But we have a song that's it's in an A position, and it's called "Long Way to Go," and it's just like. And it's basically just kind of doing a syncopation. Downstrokes, kind of raking the strings, like not going. It's like so. In that song, then you got to fit in the pedal notes on the A. So that's one, and then like I say, the punk rock stuff. We had a song back on our Make Some Noise album that was called Mainline, and it was like. Now that's actually not all downstrokes, but you could find guys that would be able to play that. Another famous downstroke one is. I don't know it exactly, but it's something like that. Really amazing right hand by James Hetfield. Really, really, really amazing. So you could practice just by picking a chord, an E chord, and just syncopating some riffs to it, like. Everybody in rock has done that. Okay guys, it's time for sweep picking! Whoa! I'm not going to show you that kind of sweep picking because actually I don't really use sweep picking in that sense in my, in my style. That kind of arpeggiated sweep picking. There is some different ones, but what I like to do is use these partial sweeps. This is what's in my style, is so it's like a little or here. Times too, when people are hitting a note, they kind of, it's not an arpeggio that they sweep, but they kind of rake the strings. So it's like, even this blues note. Look where I'm starting. I'm starting up here. I'm not just going. It sounds good that way too. But a lot of times people go. So there you have it, sweep arpeggiating. Use the little boxes for that. Okay, everybody on guitar. Now we're going to switch to some classical style finger picking. Well, there's no rules. You can do whatever you want to do. But when I was learning classical guitar a little bit, they basically taught me that you would hold the guitar as such like this, and you basically get it to where your hand, you rest your arm here, and you get it to where your hand, to where your knuckles were kind of going with the strings. Sometimes it's more like this. Bluegrass players play more like this, but with classical it was more like this. So that's kind of what I got used to doing. And another thing that they told me was that usually on the bass strings, you would use your thumb. And I don't have a nail long enough right now, but a nail actually helps you get an even brighter, nice tone. And so they would teach you to do this as you're hitting a chord. And by the way, I'm tuned to a D flat dadgad. D, A, D, G, A, D, dadgad. So basically it's a nice open D tuning or a nice open G tuning. But they would teach me to start, just put your first finger on that second fret, third string. And you just rest your fingers on those strings, so you could do the chord if you wanted to. You basically would twist it to get the chord. Or anywhere in between, you could do a picking pattern like. But you can, eventually you'll come up with some different patterns. I'm playing the bass notes with my thumb, the bottom strings with these three fingers. I'm not really using my pinky. That's kind of the classical technique, but some people do use their pinky, and there's no rules. You can use it. But I love this dadgad tuning because there's so many. When I strum, I'm using my nail. All different techniques of tuning, but of strumming. Sorry, of strum. All different techniques of strumming. But there's so many different things with this dadgad tuning. I recommend that you practice your finger picking with the dadgad and just experiment. For writing songs, I got a couple of songs from Whitesnake with this tuning. One was so really beautiful things you can do with this in D. There I'm using my thumb on the high thing just to get a different twang. There you have it. Thank you, Young Guitar, and thank you for watching some picking techniques from me. I hope you found something that will help you, and look forward to seeing you very soon. By the way, we have a new album out. It's called Radiance from the Dead Daisies, and there's a bunch of these techniques on that album, so go check it out. Arigatou gozaimasu.